have time for the next one. Just gonna go into the view of the driver to see what he's doing here. So see what he's trying to do is he's trying to track him. Well, he was at the start there, but damn, artillery. Nice. Good old WZ. So the big key that he's gonna have to think about this whole game is that artillery is literally not letting up on him. Like if you're lit, that artillery is gonna fire on you. So just something to keep in mind. And it happens. I mean, it happens to me a lot, but it's reality. So if I were you, I would almost push this 59. Yeah, like I would get in here right now because that thing's gonna have shots in you and artillery's pushing on you, and you guys could have just pushed in and started DPMing this VK. Because you also have the KV-4 who was shooting the VK down there as well. Or was shooting the VK. Okay, so if we take a look at the map right now, we lost whatever medium was out in the field. So they have field control. We aren't pushing up on this side down here, so this corner is held by them. We've lost the inner city over here. And we've also lost 9-0. So we're in a pretty bad spot. Couple takeaways is that WZ's gone here, and the only thing that we know of in the field is that T-44. What else do we know? We know artillery was down here. KV-2 was here, low was here, AMX was here. So that leaves a Roomba and a Dicker Max that we don't know of, and we know that this Hellcat's over here either shooting in or pushing. So we have a full health Persian out here. I would be content just leaving that Persian to deal with his 44, so more or less field's okay at this point. It's the least of your worries. Your low's full health. That's your biggest asset right now. Well, that and your T-28, but your T-28's in a bad position. So it's kind of like, how do you support your low and your T-28 to maximize their impact on this game at this point? Because that's really your only hope. Hopefully your Hellcat will be able to spot any movement from your Hellcat coming through here. Your artillery's relatively safe at this point because of that Hellcat. So really it's just looking for your Pershing to hold here, your Hellcat to hold here, and at this point support this T-28 and this low as much as you can to have an impact on this game. So what I would do here is I would get back into this hull down spot here, and because you know this Pershing's getting greedy and is going to want to pull out and start going after this M6.
Penetration.
Well, that was a good shot on the 44, but the Pershing can now handle that 44. Like, we don't need to keep looking over there. So that last shot on the 44, I mean, although it was a good kill, I think it was unnecessary, the extra time to sit there, because what happened in that same time was the T-28 got flanked by that AMX, and that shot that went to the 44 for what was it, 44 damage or something like that, could have been used on the backside of this AMX. And you may have been able to save the T-28. But now, he's probably going to get 2-shot, or I guess 3-shot, before you can kill that AMX.
Enemy armor is damaged.
And that was one of the tanks that we needed to stay alive. And what just... KV-2 just guiding that one for you. Okay. And so part of what just happened there was, you know, we talked about greed a little bit earlier and getting greedy for the shots. um, you know, Artie is, if you're lit, you're going to get fired on. And you've been lit for over, I think, about 15 seconds by now, because you shot once at that AMX. You were about to shoot again, but he died to the KV2, and then you just stayed there. So you know artillery was coming in, which just happened, and you're actually side profile. Like it's a little bit tricky for those. Nice pause. Look at that shot. It's a little bit tricky for them to penetrate you because you're on a downward slope, and if they hit your upper glacis, it's probably going to bounce off where a lot of those bounces are. But if they hit that track, it's going through, and you're going to get damaged. So I'd almost would have came back, and it's also too because your low, which is your other target that we wanted to keep alive, is now getting surrounded. So instead of poking down an alley where you're going against a KV2 in 2 tier 8s while you're already open in the arty, going back around and supporting that guy from getting flanked is where you should have been.
Track's up. Track fixed. Let's roll. We didn't penetrate their armor.
So there goes the first tank that we kind of wanted to stay alive. And that T-28 is probably going to go down sometime soon.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
Tiger's kind of oblivious, and he's just rolling.
Enemy armor is damaged.
So I mean, this game's pretty much over at this point. They're going to kill out the Tiger.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
There's just a lot of hit points that they have that you don't, right? I mean, you do have the Pershing, but at this time the Pershing's kind of out in the field, and I don't know.
Penetration.
And he's staying stationary to get hit by a Roomba, but you see how Artie just loves you? That's another shot. Okay, that's great.
Critical hit.
Oh, that's unlucky. Not only did you not kill the Pershing, but then you get hit for 400 from the Roomba. That's too bad. I'm just going to pause here real quickly to talk about ammunition type. One of the things you see him queuing up is he has APCR selected, and mainly because he doesn't have any of the regular round left, but he has that so that he can kill the Pershing with that hit, or that's what his plan was. But then he's queued up HE, and the reason he's queued up HE is because certain tanks like the Roomba and the WT and all those ones, their turret armor is so small that HE can penetrate it and actually do full damage. So if you hit their side cheek or whatever, it will hit for 420 as opposed to 320, which can actually be really beneficial. But the downside is if you kill the Pershing and let's say the Roomba backs up and now the low comes out, if you hit them with HE, you're not going to do a lot of damage. So.
Get going.
So now just getting kind of surrounded. It's a nice kill. Dicker Max just showed up at the base. Hopefully the Hellcat can do something about that. I don't really know what the Hellcat's been doing the whole time. Apparently not. Okay.
Enemy armor is damaged.
So it gets a snapshot off there. Now at this time, so one of the things about this is they just spotted you. You got a shot off, but there's no way you can poke out back on that corner and get another shot without dying like 99% of the time. Because one, KV2's coming out. If you low roll, you're not going to kill him, and if he hits you, it's HE, it's probably going to kill you. But two, you know, you got a Roomba shooting gold, which is probably going to go through your plate, and then a low as well. So poking out here again is kind of asking to die, but okay, you get a high roll on the KV2, which is good. But poking out here again is probably a risky maneuver. Jeez, you're lucky. mean, I guess it is somewhat hull down for you.
Armor is damaged.
See how they hit that turret? It's just like, it doesn't, they don't go through it.
Enemy is hit.
So he's backing up. He's backing up here instead of pushing forward because, for one, he has to reload, but he'll get the first shot off before that Roomba turns the corner. So if he reloads in time, he's going to kill that Roomba.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
Now, the thing we got to consistently worry about right now still is artillery. Artillery is still in the game, and they can move. So whereas before we knew they were down here, because so early in this game did they take this 9-0 line, this artillery could have kept moving up, could have kept moving up. For all we know, he could be up here, and he could shoot in here.
That one
That's
didn't
unlucky.
go through. Penetration.
Speed it up a little bit. Oh, Dicker Max, that sucks. This Pershing is just... Yeah. I mean, it was a good game. I think early in the game when you saw that the city and the 890 was falling, I think you started to need to get a bit more active in assisting those top tier tanks that you needed to stay alive in order to help you in the fight. Sometimes staying too long in a position, knowing full well that artillery was aiming in on you. That's just a consistent thing you got to get used to on every map. And it applies to everyone. Is if you know there's artillery and you know where they're shooting from, if you keep poking out the same area or stay in the same area, they're going to keep shooting you. So, and then some of those, a little bit of late movements on some of those priority tanks that we identified at the end, like the T-28. Because it took the extra shot on the T-44, it allowed the T-28 to get flanked, which meant that you lost your TD that was guarding the guys in the middle, which meant that they could then push your low, which meant that now you're by yourself. So it's kind of like it spiraled out of control a little bit from there. Yeah, no, appreciate that. Thank you for submitting that replay. So yeah, that's all the replays that I had selected to use. I know there was a few other wins that people submitted. And then I know I saw, if you want one more, you can check this out. I know 2 mistakes I made pretty obvious, but I'm curious what I could have done better. Let me take a look at it, transfusion. Well, I mean, I'll ask, before I do anything, are you guys finding it helpful at all? Is this something that you see beneficial? Is there something I could do differently? Is there structure there? Is there things you can take away and kind of use on a day-to-day sort of basis? Yeah, BattleFalcon, I'll do the Chaffee one. I know you submitted that one early in the day, so I'll take a look at that one. Yeah, I mean, a lot of there's a lot of different sort of things you kind of learn as you get um, better at the game. There's obviously learning about the maps, right? Is where positionally should you take your tank? What are the more well-known spots? But the other thing that I find is really beneficial is when you come across tanks that you don't know a lot about, and when you're facing them, is being proactive and looking up the statistics of them after the game, right? Understand what's their reload, because I know in my tier 10 that let's say I'm in an E100 and I have a 16.6-second reload, and I go against a T57 heavy. I know that if I fire at him, he's going to try and clip me out. So I'm going to try and do things to angle and whatever to my armor. But I know that once he's done shooting all four, which he has 2 seconds in between each shot. So from when he fires, it's 6 seconds before he's done his entire clip, which means I have 10 seconds left of my reload. And then he has another 22 seconds until he has 4 more shots. So technically, I can get 2 shots off to his 4, which might do 1600 damage or something. So it changes how you'll play the game. It changes when you'll push and when you'll stay. And when you start to learn each tank individually and what sort of damage they do, like if I know that I'm in, like I said, in an E100, and I know another tank is in, has 600 health, but let's say it's a 183 that has 600 health, and I'm in my E100. I'm going to push that corner and take a hit on that 183 if it means the game, because I know he can't kill me in the one hit unless he gets something really stupid, and I can kill him in the one hit. So, being able to know when you need to take a hit, when you need to push, the reload speeds, those different sort of things, those can really help. So we'll get into this Chaffee game by BattleFalcon. I do believe this is a victory, so we're not going to be seeing a loss, but nonetheless, we'll see what happens. So here we go. Here you go, Freddy. Hey, back up, bud. Come on, you're stuck. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at our 4 sort of points on this. So what map is it? Fiery Salient. Very open map. This one tends to be Artie's. They can shoot anywhere on the map, and they don't really have to move anywhere, so they love it. TDs love it because they can camo up and make you come to them. Heavy tanks hate it because they're slow, and once they're spotted, they just become huge targets. Light tanks are they can do well on this map. Normally by spotting and running loops in the middle, you'll see light tanks and even fast mediums kind of do loops over top of this ridge line in the middle to spot where their stuff is. And particularly at the start of these maps, sometimes what it's good to do, especially when there is artillery, is if you can get up high enough and you have enough spotting distance, you can see their artillery moving at the start, which is really a really helpful thing. The one thing about this map is it is in counter, so the cap is over here. Typically for lights, what you'll see on the north side is there's a bush. Where's the bush? Can I see it from here? I think it's this bush all the way up here. So let me see if I can line up with it. So it's kind of like at this E1. If you can get up there in your light tank fast enough, and they don't push anything immediately down this one line, you can get really early lights and constant lights from up there. The only issue is if you do get spotted, aka if you fire or if somebody gets close enough to proxy spot you, you're kind of dead from these guys. So as long as you angle your tank back north in case you do get lit to run fast, That's a spot you can go if you're trying to do passive scouting. If you're doing active scouting, you can just do it in the middle along this ridge line. Typically, if you're a light tank, you're generally bottom tier, and you don't do very well going up on the hill just because you'll either get artilleried and you can't really move around that lot. You could go on the back side of the hill from the north and kind of proxy spot here and there, but then you're very limited to staying just there instead of moving around the map. Looking at tank composition, both teams are fairly heavy in terms of TDs and arty. So this is really just going to be kind of a grueling match of who does what first. Your main threats are that T29, not so much to you, but to your team, just because of its haul down potential with the really strong turret. The Challenger, I don't believe, is that strong of a tank, if I remember. I think the turret traverse is really bad and whatnot, but E25s are quite annoying just because of their camo rating and DPM. So we'll give it a roll and see what it is. Like I said, your kind of positions as passive scouting at E1 or active scouting in the middle are probably what you're going to be wanting to do. Expect probably their Chaffee to be doing active scouting in the middle from the south. But we'll see how it goes. So right off the bat, you can see your team composition or where they're going is a little bit off, in my opinion. You have a lot of TDs that are coming over to this side, and maybe they're going on the back side of the hill here, maybe they're going up the hill, I don't really know. But, where SC100 and E25 and, T25AT2, where they excel is not being spotted and just being able to DPM down. So they're perfect things for sitting in the bushes back here and even sitting on the railroad here and getting shots on middle and getting shots on hill and doing those sort of things. The opposite is kind of happening. You have your mediums going wide who don't have their purpose isn't really to sit at the back and snipe. So we'll just keep rolling it, but team position at the start doesn't look the greatest for your team just because of where they're going, but we'll see how it pans out. So it looks like we're going to make a scouting run here. Because it's so early in the game, this is a little bit safer because nobody's on the hill just yet, and so you won't be getting shot from there just yet. So you're doing that scouting, active scouting run in the middle. The only issue with it doing at this point in the game is tanks that were over here will have been settled by now in here. So if you did get lit, they could be shooting you across. I don't know if you have Sixth Sense or not. You already just countered them. That's awesome. I don't know if you have BattleFalcon, do you have Sixth Sense on this? So now it's a little bit risky to be that high on the ridge right now because they have people on hill, they have people on that side of the tracks, they have people on this side of the tracks, and their TDs are most likely set up in the corner over there as well. So sitting on the ridge like this is very, like for example, a few things. You've been lit for a while, so people know where you are. Any TD that's in the back up here, to them, you're the only target that's visible and hittable. There are stuff visible probably on the back here, on the hill, but in terms of render range, you're the only one. So everything on this side is looking at you. Everything in here is looking at you, and for what you can see, only the E8 is there, but they're looking at you. This Hellcat up on the hill right here, he can shoot at you. And artillery can shoot at you, which is what just happened right here. This was the FV304 that just fired at you. And what works in a scout tank along here is staying mobile and providing that active scouting and then going dark and then coming back up and scouting and going dark and being unpredictable. By staying in here, for example, if that FV304 predicted where you were going on that one hit, you would be dead. And also, you're trying to trade with an E8, which has, if you look at the hit point advantage, has almost double your hit points. Which means that, hey, yeah, I realize you got the first shot off, but if you bounce the next one and he hits, now you're 3-shot compared to him being still like 6 or 7. And that's not taking into account the Hellcat that can hit for 200 plus up here, or any of the TDs that are sitting over here, or any of the arty that might splash you. So you're in a really compromised position. But given the battle report, I know that it turns out differently. So obviously something works here. But just for future reference, if this was a tier 10 game and you were in your bat chat doing this, being stationary on top of the hill is gonna get you hurt fairly quickly. I guess the other thing too is he's kind of hull down behind that wreck too, so it's gonna be very hard for you to do some damage on there. So you've kind of realized that, and you started moving around a bit now, so that's good. See that FE? He's trying to kill you, man. If that thing hits you, so you see what just happened? The only other target that now became available to them on the hill once you back down was your T-3485, which got killed by a Nashorn from over here. So, I mean, you still got arty shooting at you. You're still lit from this guy. You got Nashorns and TDs all over here. And now you even have another complex issue where you got this E2 pushing up on the side over here. So, the more you stay up on this ridge, the more you're becoming a target for a lot of people. So that was probably the Nashorn that just hit you. And the other thing too, because it's encountered, you guys are actually already on the cap right now, which is applying pressure. Now, the other thing too, because cap is stalled, you can see it's just sitting at 30%. Oops. That means that one of their people are also in the cap, which is fine. I mean, it means you know where at least one of their teammates are. So you got an E25 out there. You can help try and DPM that as you want, but once again, you're going to get lit from shooting them, so it's a thing about constantly moving in that light tank, because you only have 200 hit points, and kind of virtually you get hit by anything at this point. Anything above an M44 up, if you get hit, you're kind of dead, except for the E8 and E2, but... So it looks like you're doing another active scouting run. The one thing is, if we just take a quick second to look at the map, you've done several runs in the middle here, and it's probably safe to say that the E8's here, so that's one of the tanks. The E2's here, so that's 2 of the tanks. E25 is over here, so that's 3. You got hit for 200 from over here. That's probably the Nashorn. On the hill, there's the heavy, so it's a T29. You can see that from the heavy icon. Let's just go down the list here. Challenger hasn't been seen, so we don't know where the Challenger is. My guess is he's over here as well. The VK is up on the hill, so that's the second heavy. And that only leaves our artillery and the VKP. So there's kind of... You have to almost gamble what's the merit in continuing to do this active run, because at some point all it's really going to give you is the same information over and over, right? If you light this E8 over here, I mean, it just confirms that the E8's still there, and that's really all you're going to get. But what you're going to give the other team is that you're still in the middle, and all these tanks who don't have a target over here are going to still shooting on you, and just the more and more you do it, it's probably going to make you more visible as a target. The other thing to keep in mind too is you don't have any support if you do light anything. You have an SU-100 over here who can't shoot that E8 on the backside of the hill, and this JP could shoot him, but it would be a tough shot. Your artillery can shoot over him, but after that, if anything comes over this hill, you're by yourself. So you might want to reevaluate at this point how much is it worth lighting this versus maybe repositioning over even on this back island and just waiting for your team to do some stuff, because at this point you're half health, you don't have support on this side of the map. You can't impact a lot right now. I mean, the other things you could do is you could go back over to the 1 line and go to that bush at the E1, or I guess that's too close to the E2, but somewhere in this bush, and then just passive scout this line to make sure that they don't come up too much. So we'll see what you end up doing.
Target acquired.
Alright, so you spotted the E25,
Target released.
spotted the Nashorn, so you got the E25 killed, which is good. It's a good shot. E2 moved up.
Penetration.
So it's good you're flanking these guys while your SU's shooting, but you did notice that they already just fired on you, so you gotta stay moving, you gotta stay active. And as much as you can, help that SU. See how I mentioned that you're kind of, there's not a lot of your team on this side, even though it looks like they're close, they're all on the other side of these tracks. Artillery's still on you. The other thing you gotta worry about is as you get closer to the hill, these guys will be able to shoot you as you get in render range. So this red box here is showing render range. If you get within, I think it's about here with your tank, these guys will be able to shoot in if you're high enough. So that's something else you want to just keep in mind. So that E25 is keeping that E8 at bay. Artie's just won. Artie's not giving up. Oh, that's too bad of a miss. Get him! Nice high roll. It's good that you're continuing to move. That's key at this point right now, is because people are looking in, people are trying to aim in on you. So the more you move, the thing about HE on artillery is your HE penetration is just really low, and most times it might not go through. So sometimes it's just easier to shoot your regular round and consistently do 110 damage versus you might do. For example, that's 2 shots. Your third one penetrated, but if you shot 2 of the other ones, something to consider depending on your round. So I mean, if we take a look at the map, you're kind of behind enemy lines, which is a nice thing, but at the same time, we don't know where that T-67 was, and we're probably still lit from that E2 or the E8. So what I would probably do is try and get delit as much as you can. Let these 2 guys focus on your team for a second, and then come up and try and kill them. But you're going to have to be cognizant of the fact that you don't know where the Challenger is. It could be down here, and you don't know where the T-67 was, who was platooned with the T-67 you killed in the mid, so he's probably over here as well. So this would be a great spot to actually use those bush mechanics that we saw earlier. So instead of driving forward into them, what you could do is you could drive down here behind this bush and get delit, and then just hang back enough where you can't actually see through those bushes, and then shoot them. That way you won't get lit and you can still do damage.
Permission to engage.
And also, it's a lot harder to shoot on the move than it would have been to be stationary back there, so.
Penetration.
The other thing too that I just noticed right now, and I probably should have noticed earlier, is your gunner is injured, but you have a med pack. So you know, it's your call when you use these, but generally early on, if you lose some, if I use a gunner, a loader, a driver, or a commander, I usually use it pretty quickly because I'm probably in the thick of things. So just something to keep in mind.
I don't see the target.
Oh, saved by the RD. Love it. Alright, so VK is up on the hill. Still don't know where those two TDs are. I mean, chances are they are down this line. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Target acquired. Penetration.
Surprised me.
Bail out. This vehicle is heading.
Well, I mean, what you did there is you showed your team where their main threat was. So that was what was needed. Unfortunately, you died in the process, but so yeah, I think, you know, early on you did a pretty aggressive scouting run through the middle, which was good. It was somewhat late in terms of you kind of went around when you could have just gone up, and you might have missed some guys that were moving. I think sometimes in the middle there, you were stationary for a little bit longer, but got a little bit lucky in terms of artillery firing and whatnot. Want to be a bit more active in terms of moving around. When you are bottom tier in one of these games, you know, not only are you bottom tier in terms of a light tank, but you're bottom tier in terms of tier 5 and a tier 7 game. Because your team kind of lost complete control of the west side of the map, you have to be a bit careful what you're doing, especially if you continue doing scout runs for targets that nobody can really hit except for artillery. Which isn't bad. I mean, you had 3 artillery on your team, but people were running up the one line, and if you're scouting in the mid, you know, it's just a big risk, right? So a lot of this game is, given the information you know, how can I eliminate the most risk out of what I'm doing? So there was a lot of situations that I saw where you kind of put yourself at a lot of risk. That being said, it worked out a lot of the time. But you know, when you start getting into higher tier games, and if you're doing that with higher tier tanks, you might not get the same result. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that was helped you a little bit there, and also too, just the small things like remembering to use your med kit when your gunner's out, and the different sort of mechanics that we learned over the course of the day, like the bush mechanics, right? Being able to, when we saw that T-25 AT JC, he was doing his, pull into the bush, don't get spotted, binocs go on, spot them, pull back, fire. Same thing on that map. I mean, you could go into the bush, spot the E2, pull back so you can't see through the bush, fire. Yeah, that's kind of all the replays I had for now. I'm welcome to any feedback anyone has. So I mean, feel free to post in the thread that I put up about what you liked, what you didn't like, how you think it'd be improved. Certainly open to criticism myself. I mean, you can't be fair just criticizing other people and how they're playing without receiving how I'm getting it back. So more than welcome to that. And if it's something that you guys feel is beneficial or would like to have, then I'll probably look at trying to make it a bit more of a regular thing. I do try and just stream me playing in general from time to time, but sometimes it makes my game quite laggy and it's hard to play. So depending on how that goes, you may or may not see my stream going for that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, welcome the feedback, and if it's something we like, then we'll keep doing it. So I am going to call it at that, and let me know what you think. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback, guys. I know it's just it's a small group right now. Hopefully we can get a bit more people in, and but still get access to a lot of people's different replays. And as we get more replays, we'll get a lot more different situations that we can kind of critique and learn from. So. Apologize for those who just came in. I checked the thing to make it save the broadcast. So when I turn this off, I'll check to see if it's put up there as a past broadcast. And if it is, I'll link it in the thread in case anybody wants to go back on it. So yeah, once again, appreciate it, and I will see you guys later. Take care.